AITA for telling my mother she was being childish over my wife falling asleep half naked in her living room. Okay, so my wife and I are visiting my mother this week. She and I don't have a good relationship with my mother, but due to some recent stuff going on in our lives, my wife said she wanted to maybe try to mend that relationship, and I agreed and reached out to her and scheduled a visit. The first day went pretty well, as did yesterday. Then last night we were sleeping in the guest room, and heard the baby crying, and my wife got up to get him. So here's what happened. She was wearing a t-shirt and underwear when she got up to take care of the baby, then she took off her shirt to feed the baby. Put the baby back down, then she just lied on the floor of the living room, and fell asleep without putting her shirt back on. She was essentially just sleepwalking. My mother woke me up this morning and told me that my wife was on the living room floor in just her bottoms, and seemed extremely offended she did that and told me to get her that instant. I woke her up and got her shirt back, and we went back to the room where she got dressed. She was really embarrassed and told my mother she was sorry, but my mother wouldn't let it go, and kept going on about how she couldn't believe she did that while we were guests in her house, and I told her she was being extremely childish since she had to raise a baby before too and should know how hectic it can be. This made her very angry and led to a pretty intense argument that ended with us getting our things and leaving. My wife is really embarrassed and feels really bad, and I'm pissed. I get that it was her house we were staying at, but for Christ's sake, my wife just had a baby and has been working her ass off taking care of him. Edit. Something I should have mentioned in the post, my wife is autistic, so she can behave in strange manners sometimes. And yes, my mother knows that. Edit 2. To clarify, yeah, we had the baby's cot in the living room, so she just lied down after putting him down. Update. However, I know a lot of people were concerned about my wife, and I just wanted to share something that happened today. So my wife's stepsister and her 5-year-old daughter are visiting us right now. Last night my wife was watching TV in the living room and our son was in his living room cot, and she fell asleep on the couch with the TV on and the baby asleep. Then she ended up doing the same thing where she woke up in the middle of the night and took her shirt off to feed him, and then fell asleep on the couch without her shirt on. This morning her niece was the first one downstairs and she saw my wife and woke her up and was giggling like, "Aunt, name. You fell asleep without your shirt on." And then picked up her shirt off the ground and gave it back to her. My wife said she felt very embarrassed and mortified at first, but then immediately after she put it back on, her niece quickly moved on to asking about what was for breakfast, and the two of them went into the kitchen to talk and make everyone breakfast, and her niece didn't once mention finding her on the couch without her shirt. My wife told me that it really made her realize just how much of a not big deal the situation with my mother was, and how my mother was just being a baby, and she now feels a lot better about that whole situation I posted about. It's pretty tragic and hilarious that a fucking 5-year-old child handled the situation with more grace and maturity than my grown-ass mother did. Anyway, yeah, that made me really happy, and I wanted to share it since it probably would make a bunch of others who were worried about her happy too.